Hey mamas, I'm Brooke Miller, registered dietitian, certified lactation counselor, and a mama who has helped hundreds of moms feel like themselves again after baby, boost their energy, mood, metabolism, and even milk supply. Inside of the Postpartum Shift podcast, you'll learn how to take care of your health so that you can show up best for the ones you care about most. Each week, we'll tackle topics like nutrition, exercise, breastfeeding, mental health, and so much more. Plus, you'll get access to guest experts who will share ways to make your pregnancy and postpartum experience easier. Whether you're approaching the postpartum period or you're right in the thick of it, you're in the right place. Let's dive into today's topic. All right. Hey, and welcome back to the Postpartum Shift podcast. I have a special guest, Laura, with us, and we are going to be talking all about sleep training and twins and postpartum and breastfeeding, really all the things motherhood. So if you had a baby, if you struggle with sleep, if you struggle with fueling your body postpartum, if you are having twins, like any of these things, then this is going to be helpful for you. So Laura, do you want to just share a little bit about you and your family? And you've had a really unique, different types of postpartum experiences. So I would love to hear that.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So my name is Laura Van Luven. I live in Minneapolis area. So I have five kids. My oldest is my only daughter. She's 11. And then when she was a year and a half, I found out I was pregnant with twins. Um, and so they were born when she was 2. Um, and it was kind of just a huge whirlwind to have three kids under
Oh,
three
yeah.
for almost a solid year. Um, and then we decided when they turned 4 that we wanted more. So we went ahead and had another one. We thought our family was complete. And then I don't know why, we just kind of a little bit on a whim decided to have another one. And so I had my last pregnancy when I was in my late 30s. So I was 38. So my son, he's almost a year old now. So my fifth baby happened to also be a boy. Um, and it was just a really tough pregnancy for me. It was probably harder even than my twin pregnancies. I don't know if it was just because I was older, I had more kids or what, um, but yeah, that's where my family is. And my husband is a pastor and I'm home a lot with my kids. And so I have started doing some sleep consulting and parent coaching. Um, and that's what I'm up to
Yeah,
now.
so you're super busy with 5 kiddos,
Yeah.
twins, boys, and
Yes.
as we know, I have 2 boys. The boys they got a lot of energy. They keep you really
A
busy. I
lot.
know. I'm like,
Yes.
please God, let my daughter be the calm one because these boys are so wild. I don't know if I can handle
Uh,
more energy.
hate to break
Yeah,
it to
I
you.
know. That's what I keep
Girls can be
hearing.
a lot. It's different. Every kid's
Yes.
different, but yeah, they do have a different type of high
For
energy,
sure.
I think.
For sure. Well, and something that we were talking about before we started was just how, even though for both of us, our most recent postpartum experience, we were both like the oldest that we had ever been postpartum. And yet we both were talking about how much easier the postpartum period was in this time. And
Yeah.
Laura is actually one of my students, which is fun fact. And
Yes.
I would love for you just to share how nutrition played a role in this
Hmm.
last postpartum experience and some of the things that you noticed
Yeah.
just by fueling your body
Yeah.
differently.
Yeah. So in my first 3 pregnancies, I was just really focused after I always gain a lot of weight during my pregnancies. I have HG, I get hyperemesis every single time. I lose a ton of weight in the first trimester, and then I start feeling better and it comes back on. And so all of my pregnancies, I've gained a lot of weight. And so my first 3 pregnancies, I was just very motivated to get back down to my pre-pregnancy size. And so I restricted my calories a lot and I tried like eating just a lot of vegetables and salads and really didn't focus on the protein and the good fats and the good carbs. But I came across your program, thankfully, while I was still kind of in those last couple weeks of pregnancy with my fifth child. And I'm super thankful because I went ahead and got your program and I used your recipes and all your guidelines. And so like I said, this was the last one was a really hard pregnancy. So I was concerned about the postpartum period, but I felt great because I was eating, I actually really, even though I'm a nurse and a mom, I didn't understand how much protein I needed. And so, eating like eggs and avocados and making protein shakes when I was busy, eating meat sticks as a snack instead of like a carrot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I still eat the carrots, but it's great. You're just so much like fuller
Yeah.
and feel better when you're eating like a meat stick and some cheese and the
Yes.
carrot. So I just like, yeah, I had no problems with my milk production, which I didn't really have a lot before, but I just felt so much better. I was ready to start exercising sooner. Like when I would exercise, like I just feel good about
Mm-hmm.
it. So I'm super thankful that I came across your program, and I really wish I would have had it during my twin pregnancy, especially. There was a great book that I read. Um, I think it was called like When You're Expecting Twins, Triplets, and Quads. And it talked about nutrition when you're carrying multiples and just about how important it was. So I was really good about like making sure I had good protein intake and everything during my pregnancy with my
Yeah.
twins. But after I had them, I just kind of threw all that out the window and thought, well, now I'm not pregnant. Now I have to lose the
Mm-hmm.
weight. And I kind of went all in on kind of a crash diet. I felt awful. I wasn't sleeping. I'm taking care of these three little kids and just like not caring for myself at all. And it didn't turn out well.
Yeah.
And, so I just felt awful all the time. And my milk production wasn't quite there, which, it's hard
Yeah.
with
Oh,
twins,
oh yeah.
anyways. So,
Yeah, it's already like a tough battle right there. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and it's just crazy how much it can impact like energy and mood because like you said, when you feel
Yeah.
physically better, you're like, "Oh, I can go work out. I can go do this." And it's this
Yes.
ripple effect. And I think that's something that I really had to look back on because I used to restrictive diet and do all these, crazy things back in my 20s. And I remember I would like punish
Hmm.
myself and try to go to the gym super early. And I was like, oh, why can't I lift heavier? Why is this so hard? And then when you start fueling your
Yeah.
body well, you're like, oh, I can actually lift heavier. I can run further. I can like
Yes.
bike faster. All these things start to play. I can keep up with my kids. I can, you're more motivated
Yeah.
to cook or, have the energy to
Mhm.
do the things on your to-do list. And so it is crazy how we fuel our body plays such a role in things like our energy, our mood, and even our lab values too. That's something I noticed.
Hmm.
I
Yes.
remember when I was like on a really restrictive diet and I was vegetarian. I, have celiac disease, all these things. And
Mm.
I went
Right.
in and I had really high cholesterol. And they're like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I've been a
Mm.
vegetarian for 2 years and I don't eat anything,
Mm.
and then when I started eating meat and protein and, all these healthy fats, I went in and my cholesterol was perfect after that. And they're like, what did you change? And I said, I started eating meat and healthy fats. And I'm not saying every person
Ah,
who's a vegan or vegetarian is going to have high cholesterol because absolutely not true. There is a way to eat right. Being a vegan or vegetarian, I was not
right.
doing that. I
Yeah.
was just avoiding all meat. And
Yeah.
I remember like what a stark difference it was for me too. And
Hmm.
once you go this way and once you learn how to balance your blood sugar and eat enough protein, you're like, I
Hmm.
never want to go
Hmm.
back to restriction or trying to cut out,
Yeah.
and just avoid all these foods. Like, it's just not a good way to live. And when you don't feel good, you're not showing up for the people that you care about most.
Yes, it's so true. And can I just tell you too? So I started eating this way and I was feeling so good that it actually motivated my husband. So he started eating more like just like higher protein. And he's like, wow, I feel so much
That's
better. Because of
amazing.
course he was on my same like pregnancy diet, which was like eat lots of food of whatever you
Yeah.
see. But so anyways, he actually has lost like probably 15 to 20% of his body weight.
Oh
Like
my
he
gosh.
really needed to lose. And so he's like done really great with it too. And he's feeling awesome. And so I think we're both just like, yeah. I don't know why we didn't before, but
Yeah,
I just didn't understand how much protein you need, especially during that first year postpartum.
for sure.
Yeah.
And when it comes to nutrition, I always tell people, like, it is so much better to do something that is sustainable, that you can sustain long term. And the fact that you and your husband and your kids, you guys can all eat this way. You don't feel deprived. You don't feel restricted. And you can do this for the next 10, 20, 30 years. Where we run into trouble is when we go, I remember my husband and I did Whole30 back in the day, and we made it the 30 days. And then it was like binging on nachos and eating Doritos. It was like, we went off the rails. We couldn't. No. Yeah, it was completely, and like, that is never how we want to approach eating. We want to approach it. And even when it comes to weight loss, like, I've asked clients this in the past. I'm like, okay, if you had to choose to lose 10 pounds next month, but then in 6 months from now, you're 20 pounds heavier, or, you know, you lose the 10 pounds, but it takes 6 months, but then you keep it off forever, what would you choose, you know? And I'm always like, well, I'm going to choose whatever is the most sustainable and what's going to last. And so sometimes that does mean that our weight, you know, goals happen slower. And for women, we tend to lose weight slower than men. So even your husband, he may have lost like 15 to 20% of his body fat faster. And you're like, I didn't lose 20% of my body fat. And men and women, again, it's just the hormones are so different. But again, it's like, what can we actually sustain long term? And, you know, when it comes to weight loss, especially, usually the slower we lose, the more likely it is that we are going to sustain it long term. When we lose weight really quickly, we are way more likely to have rapid weight regain, which is something that we don't want. We don't want to keep, you know, weight cycling. So I love that it like impacted your whole family, and, you know, your kids can be this way, and they're going to learn.
Yes.
I love this part too, because then our kids can learn that protein's important and carbohydrates give us energy, and healthy fats are great. You know, our kids are going to learn that they don't have to fear fat. They don't have to fear carbs, which are fruits and vegetables. They don't have to fear protein. They can really have a beautiful approach to food. And like, you and your husband are now setting up all 5 of your kids, and you're setting up their kids. It's a beautiful generational thing that you guys are doing for your children. So I love that.
Oh, thanks.
Yes. Well,
thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, and I love like your approach too, because it was like, it really helped me kind of frame my mindset of like, just how, I don't know if like somewhere along the line, I think most women get this like idea that like, okay, you grew a baby, 6 weeks, off you go. Like, you should be back into your jeans, or you should be back into this. And I know some women are, and that's awesome for them. That has not been my experience. And so I felt like this time around, like, I just was like kinder to myself about it, you know, like I was like, it's always taken me like a good year to 10 months or so, like, to get back to fitting into my old jeans. And I remember it was like the summer. So my son was born in March, and I think it was like May or June. And I just told my husband, I'm like, you know, I just need the shopping budget this month, because I don't fit into my maternity clothes anymore, and I'm still not quite in my pre-pregnancy clothes. And so I'm going to take our shopping budget, and I need to buy some in-between clothes for me, and just like be okay with that. And that doesn't mean like I'm giving up, or like not, you know, just gonna like not care about like keeping myself healthy anymore, but to just be kind to myself, and have grace for my body for, you know, growing yet another human, you know, in my late 30s. So, so I just really appreciated that a lot.
Yeah, it's so true. And I remember when I was postpartum with my second, I was like 6 weeks postpartum, or maybe even less than that. And it was summer, and my summer jeans didn't fit yet. And so I bought a pair of jeans, and I wore them that summer because I was like less than a month postpartum. And then the next summer they didn't fit. So I donated them. And so I think a lot of times when we think we're buying like these in-between sizes, we think like, oh my gosh, does this mean this is my size for the rest of my life? No, this is a season. We're just putting on clothes that make our body feel comfortable in this season. And then we readjust. And it's so crucial to wear clothes that fit your body now, and trust. Like, when you have that internal trust of, I know I'm fueling my body well, and I know that as long as I do this consistently, I will get to my healthiest weight when my body is ready. It does happen. I got a message from a mom recently, and she said, you know, I'm 4 months into your program and my jeans finally fit. Like, And she's like, I was kind of hoping like, 2 weeks in I would lose all the weight and fit into my jeans. And she's like, but I'm just so proud that I kept going and I feel so good and my energy and my mood. Like, she's like, I just feel amazing. And then finally they fit. Like, it just goes to show that when you're consistent with things, your body can heal. And everybody's timeline is so different. And I'm sure you felt this way too. Like,
absolutely,
with each of my postpartum experiences, sometimes, the weight came off a little faster than the other, and every experience is just slightly different.
If you've been wanting to reach your healthiest weight and feel like yourself again postpartum without having to sacrifice your favorite foods or your milk supply, I've got a free workshop just for you. Inside of this free workshop, you'll discover how to boost energy, mood, metabolism, and even protect your milk supply. You'll learn common mistakes that moms make that actually cause exhaustion, mood swings, low milk supply, and weight loss resistance to become worse, things that moms don't even realize. And you'll learn the proven 3-step method to heal your hormones and metabolism after baby so you can go from surviving to thriving postpartum. Plus, as a free gift, you'll get my postpartum snack guide when you come hang out with us. All you have to do is click the link in the show notes to save your seat today. Spots are limited. See you there.
So I'd love to hear too about your twin pregnancy, breastfeeding, and postpartum experience. Like, if there's anything specific that really helped you for any of the moms listening who are pregnant with twins or have twins, just any tips or strategies for success for those moms specifically.
Yeah, well, I would say I should have looked up the author of this book, but it's called When You're Expecting Twins, Triplets, and Quads. And it really outlined well, like, why it's important to make sure you are getting enough protein and calories while you're pregnant with multiples. So that was super helpful. And then, I would just say, honestly, the best advice I can give is to, number one, have grace with yourself, because it is a really hard experience, not only to carry twins, the birthing process is more complicated. Sometimes, a lot of times there's a NICU stay involved. Things just aren't going to go as maybe you want them to go or planned. So just be really gracious to yourself. And the other thing is just to accept help. When people say, how can I help? Maybe like have a list of things they could do. Because I think when people say that, they really do want to help. I think most people aren't just giving you lip service. Like, most of the time, they just don't know how. And I found that it was really hard for me to accept help in those early days, partly because I had no idea. I mean, I had my daughter, my singleton, and she was a very, it was a really, I think having your first baby is really difficult because you've never been a mom before and you don't understand. So I thought, like, oh, well, this is my second time around. I kind of know what I'm doing now. So I don't know what everybody's freaking out about, but it was a very different experience to have twins. It was much more difficult. So I was glad that I had people in my life that I had said yes to, in terms of making a meal, or taking care of my older daughter, or, taking care of my twins so that I could take a nap. We did hire a night nanny for those first few weeks. And so she would come over a couple times a week and stay with our twins throughout the night, just so that my husband and I could get some sleep.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And, I think also, like, so I had a situation, I think a lot of moms, twin moms, have this, where I did have the option to do either a C-section or a vaginal delivery. I'd had a successful vaginal delivery with my daughter, so I was, feeling like I wanted to do that again, but one of my twins was breech. And so they asked me what I wanted to do, and I ultimately opted to go with the C-section. And I just felt like really demoralized about it, because I felt like maybe it was a harder recovery for me. But looking back, I just think I should have had more grace for myself. Like, I made the best decision I could with my doctors and with the situation that was, in front of me. And my twins were both born really healthy. They were both 36 weeks, and they were both over 6 pounds. So they were good sized boys. And we thankfully did not have to have a NICU stay. But but just to like, be open to whatever the situation is in front of you and just make the best decision you can with your doctors and with your with the information that you have, and then don't beat yourself up about it.
Mm-hmm.
Whether that comes to, you know, um, pregnancy or birthing or even breastfeeding. I ended up supplementing with formula pretty early on, just because they were losing more weight than what even I felt comfortable with. So, I mean, we did breastfeed. It was very difficult though. I really struggled with breastfeeding both of them at the same time. One was really great at latching on, one would kind of
Mm-hmm.
just scream the whole time. And I went to a few different lactation consultants, and I never really got great advice,
Yeah.
or I was never able to maybe implement the advice that they did. So what I ended up doing for my twins, by the time they were about 3 months old, I would direct breastfeed one of them while I was pumping,
Mm-hmm.
and I would be feeding the other one a bottle of pumped milk. He would be sitting in the bouncy seat.
Yeah.
And I just thought I was this terrible mom because I didn't ever want to feel like I was favoring one over the other. Um, but I think you learn, even if it's not twins or if it's just once you have more than one child, that, you're never going to be able to give each child 100% the same experience. And they are just going
Mm-hmm.
to react to situations differently. And just to continue to do your best and be there as best as you can for
Yeah.
your kids.
Yeah, it's so true. And every child is different. And I actually had
Yeah.
Meg on here talking about twins. We talked about breastfeeding as well. And she said the same thing. Like one of her twins latched great and the other one didn't. And so she just went
Hmm.
to pumping. She's like,
Hmm.
I'm not even gonna latch either one because it's just easier for me to pump. And you just
Yeah.
have to find what works for you in that
Yeah.
season. My first son, we were exclusively pumping and till open heart
Hmm.
surgery. And it was like, this wasn't what I had planned, but this
Right.
is what he needs, and so I'm just gonna roll with the punches. And you kind of have to do that with motherhood, is
Yes.
roll with every punch given. And with twins, there's a lot there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. But I love that you said it, because it's not, sometimes I felt like, oh, it's just because of this situation, twins, like, oh, woe is me. But it really could be so many other situations. It's not
Totally.
just exclusive to that. I mean, it has its unique challenges, but so many other situations in motherhood do too. So yeah, that's my best advice.
Yeah,
Grace, and asking for help, and just, yeah, doing your best with what you have.
for sure. And how did
Mhm.
you get into sleep consulting and helping families with sleep, and how has helping your kids with sleep impacted your
Mhm.
family?
Yeah, so when my twins were born, when my daughter was born, we just kind of did whatever. We followed her. We had no idea what we were doing. Um, and we could, because it was just one of her, and I was
Yep.
young. I was in my 20s, like I could handle anything. And then when my twins were born, I was like, wow, this is really different. So I started really researching sleep. And there was only one book on the market at the time, and it was that was specifically for twins. And it
Mm,
only spelled out the cry it out method, which is literally, once your children reach a certain age, put them in their cribs, as babies, shut the door and walk away for the rest of the night. And um, that was really hard for me to swallow as a mom.
yeah.
Um, but I started learning a lot more about wake windows, and why like having a nap routine during the day is really important, and a consistent
Mm-hmm.
bedtime, and what bedtimes worked. So I started really digging into that, and it was very helpful to me. For the first time, when they were about 4 months old, I put everyone on a really tight schedule, and I ran a very tight ship around like feeding times, waking times, napping times, bedtimes, which I'm pretty type B. So that was very like against my grain, but it was
Yeah.
the only way that I could get any sleep or any rest during the day. Um, so that's where I really started to learn a lot more about sleep. And then, so when my twins were about 2, I went back to work, and I was a nurse and I had been an emergency room nurse, and I really didn't feel like I was ready to step back to the bedside. So I went back to public health and I got a job as a maternal child public health nurse. And so I got to visit new moms in my community who were, living in poverty or had different challenges. And I really, really loved that a
Yeah.
lot. And I loved working with new moms. I had never really done that before. Um, and I found that it just was like what I was good at and what made my heart sing. So then when my fourth child was born, I decided to step away from public health and stay home more. And so I started recently started a coaching and consulting business, and I just found that it's really hard to coach parents to either live healthier or have better boundaries with their children, or have like meet the goals that they want to meet, whether it's health or parenting goals, if they're not sleeping.
Yes.
So so I wanted to learn more about sleep, and knowing my own experience with learning about sleep for babies and how life-changing that was for me, I went ahead and just got the certification and learned even more about sleep and sleep training. And so yeah, I've been helping families learn to coach their own babies to sleep all night. So it's been really fun for me, and I've been working with several twin families. I work with families of singles too, but I just feel like everybody feels better once sleep is happening. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Yeah, I've read that, a form of torture is sleep deprivation. It's like a
yeah,
real form of torture. And so
absolutely, yeah,
it completely changes. And just something else too with sleep is, it plays a huge role in our hormones and our
yes,
metabolism. And so when we're not sleeping well, it throws off
hmm
our hunger and fullness hormones. We crave sugar.
yeah,
It's like if we're getting poor quality sleep, it's really hard to have a healthy hormone and metabolism functioning. And so sleep
yes,
is so important.
absolutely,
It's so overlooked for parents and
yeah,
again, for our mental health as well. So,
absolutely, yes.
can you share any
Um,
sleep tips specifically for
yeah,
single babies and also,
yeah.
any parents who have multiples, twins, triplets, anything that's a little different for those parents?
Yeah, so whenever I'm working with a family, I always want to just kind of dig into what their daily schedule is. A lot of times I find that if the naps are off, so if the babies aren't having the right number of naps, if they're not getting enough sleep in the day, I just think it's a weird conundrum. Like people would tell me, "Oh, she skipped her afternoon nap, she'll go to bed great." And I think
Mm,
most parents learn pretty quickly that that is not the situation.
no.
So I would say, by the time a child is about 4 or 5 months old, having a schedule is a great idea to start with setting the stage for that nighttime sleep. So making sure your child is getting the age appropriate wake windows and number of naps. And not napping too, so it's kind of a weird balance because you want them to nap during the day, but not too much because if they don't nap enough, they're not going to sleep at night. But if they nap too much, they might sleep at night. They might not sleep at night. So finding ways to make sure they get that appropriate amount. And if you go on my blog, twinsleep.com, I do have some charts that you can find and based on babies' ages as to what their wake windows and number of naps should be. So I think, yeah, having that nap time, a good nap time schedule that works for your family, having a really good bedtime routine so that your baby knows that it is sleep time, that sleep time is coming. Um, and if you have twins, that can be a real challenge, especially if you have more than just your twins, if you have older kids. So I like to help families find a routine that's going to work for them. It shouldn't be too long, so somewhere in the 30-minute range. And I love finding routines that one parent can do with either
Yeah.
their one baby or even with twins. And it sounds impossible, but it's not impossible. It is a challenge, but I'm very happy to help people try to figure that out. So a lot of it is just going to be finding a safe way to put one baby down while the other one is getting changed. So
Hmm.
sometimes, when they're little enough, you can put them in a bouncy chair or something like that. But sometimes, they're going to be crawling around. So you want to make sure that the room is safe, so that they can crawl around in the room while you're tending to the other twin. Then there's some sleep training methods. And I know some people think sleep training is cry it out. I don't teach the cry it out method where you don't check on them at all. That's not something that I endorse. But there are some methods that I think work better for twins, that are more challenging, or that work really well for maybe a singleton, but wouldn't work so well for twins if it's one parent. So using things like a quick check method where you let your twins cry for, depending on how old they are, you can kind of choose a time. So maybe it's 2 minutes, maybe it's 5 minutes. You as a parent get to decide that, and you let them cry for that long. And then you go in and you check on them. And you can pick them up and soothe them. You can just give verbal soothing. You can just pat their backs, and then walk out. And you kind of repeat that until they learn that they're, safe and able to sleep. I think one of the things too to keep in mind is that sleeping is not something we can ever force on our children. That we are coaching them. We are showing them that they can learn to do this. So we're giving them the space and the tools to do that. So, just the same way that you would give your child tummy time so that they can learn to roll over. You aren't really teaching them that skill of rolling over, but you are giving them like the floor time and the nutrition and all of that so that they can learn that on their own. Same goes for sleep. So.
Yeah. And just the environment that we give to our kids is so crucial. And I think that's something that we forget is how powerful that is, what we're doing in that environment, and before sleep and during sleep, and how dark is the room, is there a sound machine, like there's all these factors that play a role that a lot of parents don't even realize or think about until they don't have a kid sleeping. Then they're like, now I need to learn about this.
White noise is super important, especially with twins. And a lot of the question that I get a lot is just how do I get them on a schedule, or how do I get them to match up their timing? And so sometimes that does mean that you're going to be waking them up. Sometimes they do get woken up by each other. The white noise helps kind of let them sleep through some of that. So it's really important for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We love the white noise machines. And
yes.
We have one in each bedroom for the children. It's like, this is a good investment. The $20 sleep machine on Amazon. Everyone needs to have one.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Is there any other tips or advice or anything else that you think would be helpful for our listeners, whether it's about twins or just being a mom in general?
I think that in terms of having twins, and again, I think it goes for any age, anytime you have more than one child, it's so fun just to get to know your kids and to just try to enjoy learning about their different personalities and their likes and their dislikes. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in the day-to-day, monotony of make the meal, do the laundry, clean the mess,
Oh my gosh, yes.
it's just fun, as you're doing those things, to learn what different interests your kids have. My twins now they get along great. They're just such different people, and it's been really fun to watch them grow together, and all my kids really. So just try to find ways to enjoy that. And I think if the other thing is, if you're finding that there's just nothing that you enjoy about your kids, if you're just in a really hard season, whether they're really little, just be sure to reach out and ask for help, either from a friend or from maybe a counselor or your doctor or somebody. So.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so interesting with parent dynamics too, because I feel like, my husband is loving the 2-year-old stage, and I love the baby stage. And so he's like, you can do more of the baby stuff. I'll do more of the 2-year-old stuff. And so it's interesting that we're complete opposites. And then, if he has the kids alone, he's like, oh, we just stay home and play inside. And I'm like, I can't do that because then they mess up the house and then I have to clean it. That's too much work. I'm going to take them to the park so that I don't have to clean up after them. And so it's so interesting how we have to find what works for us and what our kids enjoy. And, and it's probably different than your spouse or significant other. And each kid is unique with what they want to do. And it is definitely, kind of a fun challenge to explore some of that for sure. Awesome. Well,
I love that though.
Yes. Where can people find you and connect with you?
Yeah, so you can find again on my blog. I've got some articles up there where I talk about twins. So it's twinsleep.com. You can also find me on Instagram, twin_sleep. And then I also just started a Facebook group for twin parents. And so that's Twin Sleep on Facebook. You can find me there. And if you're interested in connecting with other twin parents who are looking for sleep help.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much. And all these mamas can now connect with you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys in the next episode.
Exercise is crucial for our overall mental and physical health, especially during pregnancy and postpartum. Something that has helped me stay really consistent with strength training and yoga at home during nap time is the Expecting and Empowered workout app. I love that I can choose how many weeks pregnant or postpartum I am, and the app tells me exactly what to do. Plus, there's cardio, yoga, and strength training options for new moms and moms to be. You can go ahead and click the link in the show notes to get 7 days free and also save 15% off the annual option when you use promo code Nutrition for Mamas. Thank you so much for hanging out with me and listening to the Postpartum Shift podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean the world to me if you could share this episode with a mom friend and leave a written review. This helps the podcast reach and help even more moms. Come say hi over on Instagram at Nutrition for Mamas.